Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going? Okay, so since we don't have the speed chess championships actually currently going on at the moment, we're waiting on the final four to get set up. I figure I'll go ahead and show a throwback game from Wesley from his U.S. championships. I realized that I hadn't did an analysis on the game Wesley versus Sam Shankland. And it's a good one. It's a real good one. So, like I said before, those of you that are like diehard chess fans that love chess puzzles and tactics and everything, I'll have the answer. I'll have the answer to the previous puzzle, and I'll have a new puzzle for you at the very end. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and dive into this game. Like I said, it's a good one. It's pretty exciting. It's a real roller coaster. So taking a look here at it. All right, so we have D4 opening up. So we have knight to F6. All right, so we have C4, E6. So, normally when you have this series of moves, you're going to have like D5 coming. You might have like a Nimzo-Indian type situation or like a Slav or, there's any number of things that can happen. But, generally kind of like a Queen's Gambit decline type of, start off. So we have knight to C3. We have bishop to B4. So we have the Nimzo-Indian on the board. So we have F3. And so we got D5. All right, so A3. All right, so B takes C3, B takes C3. And so, this is all mainline stuff, just typical, Nimzo-Indian type moves and positions that we've gotten into here. So we have a C5, trying to see if we can, isolate a pawn as best we can. All right, so we have C takes D5, we got knight takes D5. And so we have D takes C5. Now, another interesting variation that's also possible, slightly better for black after C takes D5 would have been E takes D5. And then you would probably have something like E3 and then B6. And as you can see, so just comparing it to the position that we have, we have this pawn here on E6. We have, not the best possibility of this pawn coming out. And we also have an isolated pawn here on C3. So if you just kind of compare it to, this position here, you have a healthier pawn structure. And, you have a lot of scope with the bishop, coming here, stuff like that. So that was just something, maybe kind of an interesting line that black could have went down. But, like I said, we do have D takes C5. We have queen coming to A5. We have E4 getting a tempo on the knight, trying to knock it back. So we have knight to E7. We have bishop to E3. Realizing that you can't protect both pawns. So, you're just trying to see if you can protect the most logical pawn. So we have castles for black, and we have queen to B3 for white. Another possibility, which you would have wanted to kind of do, just to try to restore material equality, was to go, queen takes C3, and then it would probably force king to F2, just simply because this pawn here is only guarded by this bishop, and so of course if you had the only logical thing, this queen is holding on to this rook. So, the only real alternative maybe to go beat bishop to D2, that would just drop that pawn. And then, the king is, so not only are you down a pawn, the king is very, very far away from castling. So that's definitely not something that you want to do. But like I said, we do have queen to B3. And so we have queen to C7. Now we're just traveling down like very, very main line. So almost every single move that we've made up to this point has been a mainline move. Pretty much the top move. So we're still in very heavy theory here. And so we have bishop to B5. And it's with E5 that we kind of have a solid variance from, the main line. So the main, that's about the fifth move in this particular, particular opening. And so we've started to veer off the path quite a bit here with, like I said, with E5. But it's a pretty clear intention. Like I was saying before, this pawn was blocking this bishop's ability to move. And as you can see right now, it's very, very hard to push, B6 legitimately and, try to get this bishop on this diagonal. So, moving the E pawn was the best bet for this bishop to have some type of scope. So we see knight to E2. And we see bishop to E6. And we see C4. And so C4 is the novelty of the game. It is the first time that this has been played. I can't honestly remember what the lines were, but I know that when I was, looking over the game, the move that the computer really, really wanted was bishop to C4. And you'll kind of see why in a second. I'll kind of give you you know, a little breakdown of why exactly bishop c4 was just slightly better. Now you're not forced to trade here, but you know, you might probably have something like bishop takes c4, queen takes c4. And as you can see, you have a lot easier of a time, you know, protecting this pawn than we'll see in the variations that we have. So like I said, we do have c4. We have knight b to c6, and knight comes to c3. You know, it's very clear what white wants to do with their knight. They want to plop it down in this like beautiful d5 square, but black doesn't give them the ability to, and it starts with knight to a5. So knight to a5 comes, and it causes a real problem for white, because you know, you don't really have you're really trying to hold on to this c4 pawn, but you know, the queen is starting to become overloaded, and so yeah, you move queen to b4, and you know, then you have knight e to c6 that comes, and so you know, the queen is having a very hard time trying to hold on to you know, the pawn here. So you know, we move queen to a4, which is, you know, probably the only move really, and so we see a6 coming. So you see that compared to the position that we had a second ago with the bishop trade, you know, this queen is getting kicked around, getting tempos. This bishop is now trapped, you know, unless you exchange on c6, and so you're just you're having some real problems, you know, some real problems here. So you know, you're kind of forcing the trade. So bishop takes c6. So we see knight takes c4, and so we're seeing that we're gonna probably be losing the bishop anyway. So you know, Shankland tries to, you know, go ahead and take on b7, and then we see knight takes c3. And we see bishop takes a8, and so we see queen takes c5. And so, you know, at first glance, it kind of looks like, you know, white is not doing too horribly. You know, they have so if you count, I mean, they have, you know, we have the same amount of pawns for each side. You know, we're doing good. You know, it's like we're up an entire piece, so it kind of seems like you're up a piece. You know, you just have to try to see if you can save, you know, either this bishop or this knight. But I mean, as you can see, you know, this knight is on pre, and so is this bishop with this. So it's going to be impossible for you to cover both of them. But it does seem like white's doing pretty good here. In all reality, black is like, you know, it's like an avalanche as far as the computer is concerned. The computer really loves black's position. It's giving black, I think it was giving black like 3 or 4 plus here. And so, you know, you're up as black more than an entire minor piece here. And so we have knight to d5, and we have knight takes g2 with check. And so if we just back up here to this position that we had after knight to d5, if you want to go ahead and stop the video and see if you can find the best move for black, I'll give you a couple seconds. It's kind of like obvious, like, but I mean, it's a very typical concept that you have when you have a knight in one of these particular positions. But like I said, go ahead and pause it real quick and see if you can find the move that black actually missed here. All right, cool. So I think that every single one of you, I'm really confident every single one of you saw knight to c2 with check. Like I said, it's like very like just kind of like jumping out at you to play, because it's just like an automatic fork on this knight or on this king and this rook at the same time. And you see the queen is here, so the queen is like perfectly defending that square. And so you know, knight to c2 is just like begging to be played. It's just a beautiful knight fork. You know, a lot of the times when you're playing, you know, the most typical knight forks that you'll see are going to be on c7 and c2. So like I said, I mean, I feel pretty confident that all you guys out there caught this move. So just kind of take you down a little variation real quick. You know, you would probably see king to d2, knight would take c1, or knight would take a1. You see bishop to b7 trying to save the bishop, and the bishop would take on d5. And after bishop takes d5, you see rook to c8. As white, you don't really have a lot of time to really do anything. I mean, you can try to take the knight on a1 to try to restore equality, but you'd see queen to f2, king would come to d3, and you'd see queen to b2, attacking the undefended rook, and also setting up a nice little check here with the discovery attack on the queen. So you definitely don't want to go into that. And so we have knight takes g2, like I said, and it's really interesting because this move actually kind of like gives you know, white the ability to actually draw. Like it drops the advantage all the way down to 0, which of course, you know, as human beings, you know, we can't sit here and, you know, we can't feel sometimes when the position is so much better for either side, because when you're in the thick of things, it kind of seems like, you know, things might even be equal. You know, I've had people that have you know, went into like, you know, a repetition with me in a game after they sacrificed a piece, and they were just like landslide beating me. And I've also had situations where I thought that it was fairly equal, and I still ended up losing. And finding out later that I was, you know, I was I was killing them. So, you know, it's really hard as a human being to assess, like, you know, who's doing better, unless it's just obvious theory. So we have king to f1. So knight comes to f4. So we see queen to c6, trying to, you know, so we're trying to take advantage of the fact that this queen is undefended here, and you know, trying to defend this bishop on a8. And so we see queen to a5, and so rook to d1. And at this point in the game, I saw the engine just plummet. It's giving black, like, you're getting really close to mating. It doesn't, like I said, when you're looking at it, you're like, man, it doesn't even look that bad. It's you'll see here in the next few moves, it's really dire. So we got bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5. We see queen takes a3. So now you're seeing that, you know, and it's crazy, like I said, because you see that black has they are down an entire exchange, like they're losing a rook. But it really just comes down to the king's exposed position and the fact that his white's pieces aren't really coordinated like you want them to be. So we push d6, trying to protect the f3 pawn, and we see queen to b2, and you know, you see mate coming. You know, mate is coming if you don't do something about it. So we have to move queen to e4. So queen to g2 with check. You know, we got king to e1, the only move. The queen takes on h1 with check. So we see king to d2. Queen takes h2, and we see king to c3. And so as you can see, just in those few moves, you know, black has gotten their piece back, and they are now just up a crazy amount of pawns. And so we see knight to e2 with check, king to c4, knight to d4, just lodging itself in that nice little outpost square on d4. So we see d7, queen to a2 with check, king to c5, queen to a3. So we have king to b6, and then we have queen to b3. It's in this position that Shankland actually resigns. It's pretty clear. I mean, after the king moves somewhere, this rook is going to get picked up. And you just have like a million pawns to 2, and so it's not really a lot you can do in this position. You know, as you guys already know, you know, Wesley So was the U.S. champion for this year, and so this was another beautiful victory by him. Going to the puzzle that I promised you guys. Now, this is the puzzle that I gave you guys last video, and I was hoping that some of you guys noticed that you have the knight and the rook kind of trained on checkmate here on g1. And so it's a nice little clearance sacrifice with the queen on h4. And so that was the move here, trying to deflect the rook away so that you can deliver checkmate on g1. And you're also threatening mate on h2. So we have rook to g2. The queen sacrifices on h2 with check, forcing the rook over. And then we have checkmate here coming on g1, the original one that hopefully you guys saw. And so going over to the puzzle that you guys have for this time, this was a pretty tough one to me personally. It's a clearance sacrifice as well. It's saying it's intermediate, but I mean, this was, like I said, this was crazy. So this is that one for you guys, and I appreciate you guys stopping by, subscribing, like, comment, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right then.